There's a feeling you get when something really tickles your sense of adventure. It's like a swell of excitement and nerves in your chest. This route's really giving me that feeling right now. I could be happier about it. I think I'm in for a good one. Just getting started with this trip. First 5 kilometers or so, but I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. Passed up a few good campsites already, but with a day like this, gotta take advantage. There should be a nice campsite ahead too. This truly is my paradise. Beaver paradise too. There are lodges everywhere. Coming up to what I think is the first portage. Don't have a lot of information about this section. Wasn't planning on fishing today, but can't seem to help myself here at the first rapid. Very little information on this section of the route, but I know it is viable. At least one group got through. And the brook trout fishing here seems like it could be pretty special. I think it's a little too shallow here though, so I'm going to start hunting for a trail here. Hopefully there's a decent way around this. Bit of potential here actually. First spot I tried, it looked like there was nothing. Scouted to the other end of the rapid, and any hope of a trail is lost immediately. It's definitely just a little beaver trail here at the start, and I didn't see a single blaze or cut, sign, flag, nothing. So it's going to be rough travel for at least a while through this section of the route. The upside to that is that it's going to be pretty pure wilderness. If no one's coming in here, then it should be pristine. When I scout something like this, I go through and I mark natural clearings with a green pin. So I just connect those at the end and it'll be reasonable. That's one down. Another impasse just ahead. Can't resist again. The scenery is making it worth it though. Look at this. Oh yeah, had to be. Yeah, it's a brook trout. Hand nice and wet. Gorgeous. This one starts off looking pretty decent. Taking load number 2 across, and I just saw a decent sized tree fall down over there. This is the one. It just fell. Huh. What are the odds? Feels good to have those behind me. It's getting kind of late now. It's close to 7, and I should be able to get to my target campsite in about an hour. Pretty stiff headwind. No wonder that tree blew down. Spring peepers. Tiny little frogs. They sing their hearts out after a long winter. Makes them quite relatable. Well, I passed up a couple nice camps early to get to this spot, and it looks like it's going to be worth it. What an unreal spot. Just need somewhere to hang the hammock. I'm in business. Somewhere to hang, and lots to do. Not much daylight. Well, that ended up being quite a bit longer of a day than I expected. I might have even gone past the campsite that I had in mind. But I don't have any like detailed maps for this section, just a trip report that I'm referencing, so winging it a bit, but I couldn't be happier with how this worked out and the entire vibe and scenery of the route so far. It's just my dream come true. Much needed dinner though. It is getting late. Jalapeno and cheddar smoky and naan with some jalapeno and onion. Gonna go down so good. Just got in the hammock, feels amazing, and it should be a clear night for stargazing. Got a great view here, terrific start to the trip. What a morning. It's early in the season, so the nights are very cool, but it's starting to warm up, and I'm packed up, so it's time to get on my way. Let's have a look at the map. So I'm around here on this branch river, which eventually flows and meets into this river, and they both flow this way, north. I blacked out the names because it's a potentially special and sensitive brook trout fishery, but yeah, I'm heading upstream. I have another barrier ahead, I can hear it, another rapid like yesterday, that's not navigable. And that'll take me into a lake here, across the height of land into another lake chain and then creek. And that creek flows into this river, which I'll then take up. And then I need to ride my bike, which I cached here, about 15 kilometers to get back to my start point. That's the plan. Pulling up to the first rapid. Slow down the pace today, get a little more fishing in. Yesterday was a bit rushed. Oh, that felt like a hit. No takers here, but it is quite shallow. The woods look like a real tangle. I was hoping to be able to wade up this section maybe from what I saw from the air, but there are trees down across the river, so I have to figure something out. Very steep along the edges, so I can't go up to access more open woods. A bit of a game trail here, which is usable if I clear this a bit, but that takes some time. Clearing and portaging a heavy load through here would be pretty awful, so I'm really trying to figure out a way to wade through here. It's doable for the most part. There are a couple tricky spots, but if I can get through, this would be a huge win versus trying to take everything over land. Onto the second rapid, more of the same. I can wade it, so I'm happy. It'll be slow and steady. One thing to watch out for in these things is leg entrapment. If I fall backwards and the current's pulling me back that way and my foot's trapped upstream, you can actually drown very easily that way. Seems harmless, small rapid like this, but all moving water carries some danger. Just have to be careful, that's all. I think that might be the end of this one. Fingers crossed. Just about to get back in the canoe and spotted a plant on shore. It's a pitcher plant. It's carnivorous, like a Venus flytrap. And I've never seen them grow in a place like this, but they have liquid in there and insects and really anything that falls in there it digests. But I've never seen them grow in such a cluster and in such a random spot on their own, usually kind of sporadically in big wetlands. Very cool. Through to the next open section. It's just a widening of the river, and I'm content to set up camp as soon as I find something that's nice. Too many trips like this, I just keep going and I never stop, and I finished the trip 2 or 3 days earlier than I expected. And then I'm left wondering, why didn't I stop and spend those days where it was beautiful and after I'd been working hard to relax. So it's time for a bit of that. No good camping on this section, so I'm paddling up through the narrows, see if there's anything ahead. Hell yes. Camp number 2 is a beauty. Got the tarp half pitched because rain is supposed to come later. Just my kind of site, cozy, untouched. Gorgeous view, wild north country. There's a wicked headwind again, so it's a good day to get off the water early and take a nap. Just passed out cold for an hour or so, getting some veggie chili rehydrating here, along with some garlic naan. And I was having a look at the map. This section that I'm on right now is, I don't have any detailed information on it. There was that trip report that I mentioned from a group that came through here about a dozen years ago. That's all I have on it, which is a huge help just to know it's possible, including the height of land crossing into the main river watershed. So most people have flown in to this lake or to this lake to do this route traditionally. And this is just an old map. I have no idea where it came from or how old it is. I'm betting all the many portages in here are not well maintained, but hopefully there's a semblance of a trail left. But yeah, hoping I'm done some of the tougher stuff there. My body's feeling it early in the season. You haven't bushwhacked like that for quite a while, oh man, but it feels good. Cheers. Day 3, rained pretty hard overnight, but it's clearing just in time to get going. I've got some granola, seeds, nuts, and fruit. And today I want to get to the next small, medium lake. Small for Ontario and Canadian standards. And I have several obstacles in the way, but I don't think any of them will be as significant as the past ones. Just about ready to go. Tarp is the last thing to get packed up. Never know when it's going to start raining again. We've got the tarp bag that comes with, and I also carry a dry bag for when it's soft and wet. I always wonder, why don't tarps and tent flies come in a dry bag, a roll top dry bag, where they're not getting everything else wet. Nice and quiet on the river this morning after a couple of windy days. And this all may seem like prime fishing, but it's actually extremely shallow here. It has been for a while, so I'll take my chances when they come. And I'm excited for the possibility of wildlife on this trip too, especially moose. And there's a little write-up on the main river section of this trip, which I'll read when I get to it. And it talks about the abundance of moose. So, and I already know that. I know there are lots of moose in this area. Somehow it's more exciting when it's written on the map. If you love the north, this is just some incredible scenery. The northern flicker perched up ahead. That's its call there. A couple of mergansers earlier. Come up to the next obstacle. It's a pretty little cascade. It's gonna warrant a portage. Can't wade up this one. And it's less than a foot deep here, but needs a cast. Yep. Oh, we got off. It was small, I could see it. I have had some small bites, like 4-inch trout maybe. That one was maybe 6 to 8 inches. But I figured there'd be some larger ones. Maybe they'll be on the main river. Spent the last hour scouting and clearing a trail, and as I was walking along I felt like it was more than just a game trail, and sure enough spotted this pine marten box. So this is a trapline trail, and that makes sense because I know from the trip report from the guys about a dozen years ago that there's an abandoned trapper's cabin on the next lake. So pretty good. Cleared it and now it's looking great. One tiny rapid before I get into the lake I want to camp on tonight. See if we can get a dinner fish right here. I'm using a pretty good sized spoon to weed out the little 4-inchers, but there are plenty of those here for the taking. Keep hitting me, but they're too small. No quick bites, but I'm really excited to get to this lake, so I'm gonna try again there. There's a wicked headwind yet again on this lake. Luckily it's not too big and I don't have too far to go. What a reward. This lake looks amazing. But before I head down it, there's the old trapper's cabin down at this end. I'm gonna see if anything's left of it. Oh, there's an old boat growing into the ground. Oh, there it is. Huh. Planted some red pine here, it looks like. Wow. In that older trip report, this was still standing. Now watch for nails. Oh, the floor is soft. Big stove. It's huge for the size of this cabin. That's seized on. Trying to figure out what that is, and I'm guessing wolf for the size of the teeth. Seeing a cabin like that on a lake like this, in the middle of nowhere, sure stirs up a desire to live off the land in the wild, but it'd be a tough life. This whole canoe tripping thing suits me nicely. All those little stunted spruce. Another beauty campsite tonight, and this one's actually established on the small island. Just an unreal view. So funny, this gull has been following me the whole trip. Obviously conditioned to be getting fishing scraps from anglers, I guess. And if I get a fish, then I will give it to him, the remains. I'll try shore fishing in a bit. Too windy for the canoe. For such a beautiful campsite in the middle of nowhere. There's some pretty bad camping etiquette going on. Tree stumps hacked all over the place. Looks like they're aged few years perhaps, but all over the place. Some small chunks of garbage, not a big deal, they can be burned up. But then there's this. For one, it should be biodegradable soap in the backcountry, otherwise it pollutes, and biodegradable soap has to be dumped into soil, so if you're washing your hair, or your body, or your dishes, that water and soap has to go into the soil away from water, otherwise it's just polluting. But this, I bet someone got dropped off here by plane and decided they brought way too much detergent, so they just ditched it here. Oh, how can we escape this cycle of selfishness? And it's a long-standing cycle. It used to be more common, actually. I think we're getting better. Campers used to just leave their tins all over the place back in the day. Old Canon Maxwell house. Anyway, that's all. I'm done. Done my rant. But don't forget, when it's election season, at the polls, vote John Terrio for Supreme Chancellor of Earth. I'll put these people on a penal colony on the moon. No bites, but the upside is every time I eat out of the food barrel, it gets a little lighter. So, just whipped up a little mac and cheese. It was very good, and I'll be up early tomorrow for a big day. I want to enjoy this lake a little bit more when it's not so windy, and then it's time to head for the Heideland Portage. That could be the longest carry of the trip, but I don't think it'll be the most difficult based on that group's report from 12 years ago or so. We'll see. Cheers. Gotta work down the scotch too. The hills are alive with the sound of bird music. What a start to day 4. Chilly one, bordering on frost. It should only be getting chillier from here on out. On my way, heading out from Camp 3 onto the Heideland Portage, and it is a very minor height of land separating two small watersheds. It doesn't even cross a 50-foot contour interval, so it really sounds kind of dramatic, but it shouldn't be bad. at the west end of the lake now. There's another small lake flowing into this one, so time for a few casts. Getting small bites here, but I've stuck with this larger spoon. It's got a nice big octopus hook on it, which is fantastic for going barbless. The octopus style really stays in. I don't want to catch the small ones and hurt them. They're very delicate, so I'm looking for something a little bigger. If you can't take this, then that's fine, but hopefully trout for dinner tonight. The fishing certainly hasn't been as on fire as I thought it might be, but it's just the first leg of the trip. After the height of land, I'll be in the creek system to take me down and across, and then up the main river system, so lots of hope left. Very early spring this year, but still some snow and ice hanging around. That's the first decent chunk I've seen. And that was funny because it's exposed. Usually you find them in little shadowed areas. Back onto the river. Sandhill cranes. Sound like pterodactyls. Well, I thought it felt cold last night. Thin sheet of fresh ice there. Beautiful section to paddle. I'm just loving this route so far. Couldn't be happier with it. I'm about to hit the start of the portage, I think, at least based on that trip report. But those guys said it was mature forest and that the trapline trail was also established there, so I'm hopeful they'll pick that up and it won't be too bad. End of the road here on the river. Just took out here where it looks like I could start to get through, and from the air it looks pretty good. Natural clearings, but everything looks pretty easy from the air. It's like when you're scouting at home on satellite, like, oh, I could do that, no problem. It's almost always not that simple, but I think it'll be good. Oh, it looks like I picked it up. Either that or a well-worn game trail. No question, game do use it. There's some moose tracks. Well, I was thinking I'd lost the trail, but the going was still pretty decent. And then the old relics of the trapper. Jerry can and a boat. Oh man. Just rotting away. here's the reward. Beautiful. 2 loads to go. So the first half of the trail was well defined, and then I lost it. But on the way back, I'm finding it again. That's the first cut log that I've found. So this is it. Time for the canoe. The trail is pretty good as I could have hoped for. It's about 1 kilometer in total each way, and it gets a little vague in the middle, but I'm happy. I'll be done in not too long. Oh. Oh. Ah, jeez. Yeah. Well, that went as well as I hoped, but it was still 5 kilometers over land, including the trips back. So we got a big peanut butter and honey burrito with some chocolate covered almonds. Delicious. Didn't see a scrap of evidence of recent use, just that old cut log, the canoe here, and some moose and 1 pile of wolf droppings. That was it. That is actually quite good with the chocolate covered almonds. There were a couple mosquitoes around here, and I'm thinking how grateful I am that it's not a swarm, because in 2 or 3 weeks it will be. I always feel bad for canoes that are abandoned in the woods. It just seems like such a lonely way to die for such a faithful companion. But I checked its pulse and it is dead, so she's at rest. I'm officially into leg 2 now. Few ponds, takes me to 2 larger lakes that leads to the creek. And I bet these small ponds just about never get fished. So I'll troll along here. Well, no fish, but the minnows evidently love these beaver ponds. Looks like it's going to be another carry. Thankfully it's going to be a really short one, and then I might be home free for the day. At the inflow of the lake, and there are some brookies biting. Should be dinner. One more of those. Thank you. I'll dispatch it right away and then I'll show you. Just cleaned it up. One more of those would be perfect. Thank you so much. Go. Thank you. Another fine camp. These are about the easiest fish to clean too. Just cut up in front of the pectoral fins, just behind the head. And then pull the head back. And most of the guts come out with. And then I just cut the belly and clean it out with my thumb. Not a sound here. Barely even the wind today. This is just amazing. And now the question is, do I go on this side of the lake for sunset view or this side for sunrise? I almost always pick sunrise, especially in the shoulder seasons when it's cold, because the sun really helps. It helps just wake up and get out of my sleeping bag. So that's what I'm looking for. Looking good for night number 4. Some heavenly moss carpeted woods. Mouth is already watering. Meat slides right off the bones. Wow. The small ones are arguably the best. Just bones left. That's another good thing about doing it this way. And mint tea to wash it down. Cheers to an amazing day. What an awesome day. Weather has been just unbelievable on this trip so far. It is bringing back the mosquitoes a bit and even some black flies. I also saw mayflies, dragonfly, and something else today that was just way ahead of schedule. But anyway, I'll take it. I'm going to do the bug mesh up, but I'm more than happy to kick up my feet in here. Just took some ibuprofen and I'm ready to drift off. Wake up at sunrise. What a start to day 5. The sun and the warmth feels amazing. Looks like it's going to be another beauty. Fried up some onion, jalapeno, and bacon for these melon calzones. And that was Tex-Mex on the brook trout last night, I meant to mention. So yesterday I crossed over into this creek watershed, camped here on this north section of the lake. There's the Narrows, and then I'll pass into the south section, and then I'll probably get started on the creek today. There's a beautiful little fly-in outpost camp here on the lake, and sometimes I'll see that canoeists use them almost like public campsites, which they're not. They'll even go in sometimes and use appliances or the stove. I don't think the operators would appreciate that too much, so not a great look for canoeists. Lots of other places to camp. I don't know how, but that plane came out of nowhere. I didn't see it coming, but that was kind of fun. Flew over me, and must be either dropping off a guest at the outpost camp or more likely resupplying it, because there's been a bush plane flying back and forth to another farther away lake, and I bet they're resupplying it for the start of the season. The south end of the lake, about to start the creek, there's an old fire tower on top of that hill. Would have been a pretty interesting line of work back in the day. It's been decommissioned. I think there used to be a bunkhouse here too for them to live in. Pretty cool. So I'm at the first portage on the creek, and I just scouted it and cleared it. There was no trail, not even a cut left from behind from past parties. I was hoping that it might get better from here on out because canoeists might fly in. Seems like that's not the case, so could be rough travel ahead, but the scenery at the other end looked beautiful, so we'll focus on that. I'll spare you the monotony of bushwhack portages, but it could be some rough travel on the creek. On my way back for the second load. That's pretty cool. That's one down, and it's always a win-win with portages. There's either a trail and the portaging is easier, or there's not, and the country is more seldom seen, the fish less pressured. Let's give a cast here at the outlet. Seems like an unbelievable pool. How are the fish not just jumping onto the hook? Beautiful. Single barbless hook comes right out. I'll give you a look in the water. Keep this guy cold and wet. Beautiful. Still not too big, not exactly the action I expected, but a lot of rapids to come. Jigging for a brook trout right now. That's something you don't get to do on pressured waters, where they're much more suspicious. A bit nicer one actually. There it goes. Don't want to keep right now. I've got a lot of work to do. And I don't feel like carrying a dead fish in addition, so I'm gonna move on. Lots more fishing to come. That one was much easier, but that was the shortest one marked on the map. So beautiful spot to camp too, but I think there's gonna be quite a bit more of that getting hit here. It's probably the biggest one yet. Get line tight. Yeah, this is definitely the biggest. It's still not huge, but well, for local standards, most other places in the world, this would be huge. Hand's super wet. Any dry surface, including the ground or your boat, will rip the protective slime off. It's pretty nice. Thank you so much. I was wrong. The third one was a 30-meter one, and it was high enough water to skip it. So that was my target for the day. I'm looking for camp. Big chunk left here. It's a funny thing to see on an unseasonably hot day like today. It's about 20 Celsius or 70 Fahrenheit, I think. Well, this might be the coolest camp yet. Awesome spot for the hammock here. Got the tarp up. Expecting rain. Really nice landing for the canoe and some rock to cook on. Water filtering. And a little brook trout stream where I'm tempted to get my dinner. And there's a cool view up the hill too. Life doesn't get much better than this. Nip of scotch, everything's ready to go for a fish fry. Trout stream at my campsite doorstep. Is it big enough? Oh! Wow. Got off. Just slipped past the net. Better run on than that little one anyway. Oh, shoot. Well, I blew it. They won't hit anymore. Got penne. As I was pulling out the dehydrated pasta sauce, I remembered I have dehydrated pineapple, which is the most delicious thing next to brook trout. And those brook trout get to live now, and I'm always kind of happy about that. Never easy to kill them. Another gorgeous start for day 6, and the rain held off, so the weather just continues to be too good to be true. And it's a bit cooler today, so I'm going to try and hammer out some portages here. Off to a great start so far. The first 250 ended up being 150 over mostly exposed rock, maybe an old campfire there. And the second half of the rapid was wadeable. There was a little swift ahead of that, and now I've come to a rapid. This one's very tempting, but it's full of rocks. Yeah, that spot right there could easily send me careening one way or the other. There's a definite pin risk here. Close to doable, but it's not worth the risk. Overland. That's 2 down for the day. And there are all these things in the water that look sort of like clusters of pine needles, but they're actually bugs I discovered one time. I think in their larval stage. That is a bug, if you can believe it. Or actually, that one might have left. Or maybe they all have. In any case, they disguise themselves. They grab needles, I guess. Really cool. Scouting out the next one. And this is one of the bigger cedars I've seen in Ontario. Sort of reassuring to see one of these every once in a while. That's exactly what you wouldn't want to see at the end of a blind corner. Big sweeper going right across the river. Went into a really nice looking section now. Beautiful spot to camp here, but too early. Looks like a little waterfall. Well, that was stunning. Maybe the most beautiful part of the trip so far. Moving on. Well, that's a beaver lodge. Huge one. Final obstacle for the day, and I am not keen to portage it. Just had a look, and I think I'm gonna go for it. All right, so just gotta go right beside this sweeper, little one, and then get right. That little run was the perfect close to what was becoming sort of a long day, but I'm through one of the most portage heavy sections of the trip, so feels amazing, ready to make camp, and now a very comfortable pace for the rest of the trip. Should be anyway. Yep. Gonna move on. Would love brook trout for dinner, but low energy, so I'm just gonna make something out of the food barrel, and got plenty more time for that. Another beauty for Camp 6. Gonna get some dinner on, much needed. Good pile of stick fuel. Loving the view, and it's nice to be away from the roar of moving water. Spring peepers are firing up though. Tiger to lasagna tonight. With some orange pico. Well, I broke the cardinal rule of rehydrating, which is start with less water and you can always add more. Can't really take it out. So it's kind of a lasagna soup, but it'll still be good. Added some cheese and I'll let it cool. That'll thicken up a bit. There's beaver right out in front of me. Still, that's the only significant animal that I've seen on this trip. No bears, moose, or anything else. It seems that the beavers are firmly in control of the territory. So. Tomorrow I'll finish the creek. I'm camped right about there right now, and I'll hit the main river section. And there's a write-up that I printed out for the river to go with the map, and I'll read that. The river is one of the most scenic in the district. However, the drop in height downriver from Lake 4 takes place in a set of steep rapids and falls, creating scenic locations for lunch and overnight stops. The lakes are very scenic, and the routes leading out of them offer challenges, depending on the canoeist's level of ability. From the junction of the creek and river, for the next 3 kilometers, the river meanders through a marshy area where beaver activity is evident. Moose and waterfowl are abundant along this stretch, and chances to see them are good. On my way for day 7. It's supposed to be overcast and maybe rainy this morning, but instead it's another perfect day. Beaver! Well, it took to the 7th day and some fairly rough travel, but I'm finally at the 3rd leg of the trip. On the left here is the creek, and now I'll be heading down the main river. Dark-eyed junco here, I believe. Some nice low hills coming into view. Another northern flicker calling somewhere in there. And those are tamarack over there. They're not dead like the ones earlier on the creek. They just shed their needles in the winter. Oh, there it goes. The river turns into quite a maze of channels here in this low wetland, but it's always clear where to go based on the current. Wherever the current's flowing is where I'm going. There's a waterfall coming up, and I can hear it getting louder and louder as I get closer. It's one of 2 marked hydrological features on the entire route. Everything that I've gone through so far, none of those rapids are even marked on the map because they're pretty small water courses. But there's this one falls ahead and then one rapid that's I'll probably hit on day 9. That's it. It's all the marked features on the river. After a bit of scouting, I finally found the landing. It was totally overgrown with alder and dogwood. Cleared it out, cleared the short trail around the falls, and there's a campsite over there. It looks very old and unused in recent years, I would say. So if there's any indication as to whether this route is lost, which it has felt like up to this point, I think this is it. If there was any spot that would show heavy signs of use, it's right here. So yeah, I think this route is quite forgotten. This spot, yesterday's unmarked and unexpected falls were actually a lot more interesting. Lots of birds here along the river. Canada jay and common grackle hanging out there together. Onto a longer trail, and this one is my goal for the day. Tons of moose droppings here and browse. They've bitten the tops off. Trying to find the trail. Got tangly by the shore, so I went into the woods, which are good. And there's a very runnable section here in the middle, and very unrunnable, at least for me, sections at the start and end. So I'm gonna have to carry this whole thing. I was hoping I might be able to run it. I ain't running that solo, or in any boat with anyone. Actually, look at that. Nope. But a really interesting spot. So it'll be a relatively straightforward carry. There is a cairn here. That's the only sign that I've seen of on the whole trail. So, and this has been here for a while because you can see this rock tripe growing all around it. Further away from the river, there's actually looks like a chain of cairns. Yeah, look at that. Guessing this was a fire pit at one point. The cairns lead way up away from the river, and it seems like it leads to a trail. Sweet. This is a brilliant trail. I haven't found any cuts or anything to show recent use, but it just naturally holds up extremely well up high on shallow soil and bedrock. Stays out of all the tangles. Beautiful. Blazed the takeout, cleared the landing, and the rest should be a cakewalk. Would have been a nice spot to camp there by the rapid, but I chose this instead. It's quiet, peaceful. I can hear the songbirds, so I'd take that over the roar of the rapids. Not as beautiful, but it's pretty nice back in there. It's a little ugly here, but nice rock to cook on, so it's pretty good. Got probably half a night of sleep last night, just had trouble sleeping. And the trip's starting to take its toll. A bit battered and bruised. Not too bad, but I am more than happy to just kick my feet up in the hammock for the rest of the night. I'm sandwiched between two rapids here, so it feels nice and secluded. The next trail is just about half a kilometer down the river. It is nippy this morning. First priority is getting a hot tea going. Good call. I'm away for day 8. I'm heading down that way, but I'm going to throw my line in here. Didn't even try it yesterday, rather than jump right into a carry. Small ones here, but still nothing too big. I mean, this is decent. Wet hands. A nice enough brook trout for most places. Thank you. I know it's just killing all the fly anglers out there that I don't have a fly rod, but spinning is my reel and rod of choice. I'm gonna have to pick one. So I'm camped, where am I? There, and I'm heading up along the river. Just trying to knock off, I don't know, 2 or 3 carries every day. Nice reasonable pace. Maybe more if the trails are good, but for the most part that hasn't been the case. This one almost looks runnable from here, but pretty sure there's a good drop there. It's getting better on the river. There's a trail. A little overgrown, but it's a start. trail's pretty overgrown, so I'm scouting this one out. I think I can do it. Long. Going for it. This is the longest run I've done in quite a while. And the risk with that is if I do dump, my gear will get washed down way away from me. So sneak down the left here. Here, middle, shaded to the left. Woohoo! And then right down the pipe. Sweet. That was the perfect little challenge for my skill level, and it's just what the river needed too. It was getting a bit monotonous. It was just a short paddle, another portage, clear, scout, all that. So that was a perfect bit of adrenaline to break it up, and that really helps my day because that would have been a long portage to clear that whole thing. There weren't any real holes to trap me, so that's why I felt comfortable running that alone. And ironically, the most dangerous part of the rapid was the scout. I fell backward and landed on my butt on a beaver chewed stick that was still hard but sharp. Went right through my pants. Luckily it was a glancing blow, but it was almost an involuntary probing, and that actually happens to forestry workers sometimes, or so I hear, and that can be pretty dangerous if it goes up the wrong hole. On to the next rapid. Took out where I figured the trail would start, cleared some alder out of the landing, found a can right away, so I thought I was on the right track. Scouted along the river first to see if it was runnable, and definitely it isn't. So I started searching for a trail on river left where this old map says it is, and it's just a nightmare. It's a tangle of alder and balsam fir blowdown. It would take all day to get through there. You can see my tracks. I was zipping all around, trying to find something, and I don't have many skills, but I've done a lot of trail finding, and I'm pretty confident I can find a trail if one's there. If there was a trail there, I think it's quite lost. So I'm trying the other side. That my gut instinct when I pulled up here was that I wish it was on that side. It looks a little better. So hopefully that's right. Certainly a better start here. Not looking good. Well, I just scouted the east side, took a little break and thought about it, and I'm gonna stay on this side. It's maybe a little better, and I'll connect with a little side channel in the river. Including the other side, I spent 2 hours scouting, so that's kind of hard to believe. I don't think I've ever done that before, but yeah, it wasn't a good option. Just gonna go for it. Couldn't glean anything from the air either. It always looks easier up there. after running that rapid, I thought I might be putting in a big day, but no, now I'm just back to even at best. There's been a lot of tough travel on this trip. For some reason that felt like the worst. But it's behind me, and now I'm just thinking about a really good brook trout dinner. That's what I need. I'm getting on my way. I had one on, lost it, turned it on the camera, and then had another one. Wasn't gonna risk the camera this time, got it in the net. I was wrapping it up as I normally do to get a grip on it and bonk it, put it out of its misery. I wrapped one too many times and it flopped right out of the net back into the water. So suddenly I wasn't in the mood for trout anymore, and all I wanted was to move on and find camp. So that's where I'm at. That was a tough rapid. Falls. That's a falls. How is that not marked on the topo too? Thankfully there's a pretty long section coming up with no obstructions, I think. Usually this is not what I like to see in a wilderness trip. Cached boat, got in here on an ATV trail or something, I guess. But if it means a good trail, which it looks like it should be, I'll take that right now. I'm gonna start out on the trail and camp as soon as I find a nice spot. The trail looks great as expected, and there's a well-established camp here. It's nice and orderly, nothing junky, and beautiful falls. See, this is the other feature marked on the map in terms of like falls or rapids. The only other one. Pretty deafening roar here, so I'll camp back in the woods. I think we're good to hang right here anyway. I'm happy. Dark clouds moving in. Something I haven't seen much on this trip. Tarp up, nice lofty pitch. Nice cozy spot here. Considering how well established this site is, it doesn't seem like anyone's used it in a while. Wood is very old, it's dry. That is a pretty amazing falls. Also scouted the first half of the trail and it looks pretty much immaculate, so I'm really happy to be starting tomorrow like that. Nice and easy, and I'm all comfy in the hammock here, feeling much better. Dinner in my belly, a little scotch, almost done. And Erin sent me a message on the SATCOM, and she said that the KP tonight for the Aurora forecast is supposed to be a 9. I've never even seen a 9 in the forecast, so that's off the charts. And then 8 tomorrow, so it's a bit overcast right now. Hopefully that clears up. I'll be keeping an eye on it. Started for day 9, had canola by the falls, and then carried on this nicely maintained portage, at least for the first half. The second half deteriorated a little bit, but cleared it up, and it was still the best trail of the trip. And now I'm at the bottom of this rapid, or it's really a falls, and I would say this might be the most beautiful falls of the whole trip. The one falls that was marked on the map really pales in comparison to the rest of them, so it's funny. It stayed cloudy all night for that KP9 forecast, so I'm pretty gutted about that. It's a tough pill to swallow. Erin said it was the biggest solar flare in a decade, so. I'm getting very close to the end now, just 3 portages left, 600, 260, and a 30. I could get it done today. I'll probably spend one more night just to enjoy it. On to the next. After the tough trail yesterday, brings me great joy to discover the trail here. It was starting to look much the same, but this is it. Pretty good. Goes way up above the rapids, at least 100 feet. The last trail was maintained by someone coming in on an ATV trail from a forestry road, I guess. This one is a little more overgrown, but still I'm thrilled that it's straightforward. At first slow to cross, and there's a bit of a campsite here. Old fire ring, but not much. Some old refuse. Most of it just making this route feel more forgotten. I'm on the second last trail now, and as I get closer to the end of the route and closer to forestry roads, there's more stuff. This is pretty comfortable. Looks like no one's been here in a while, but created a platform over the rapids. It's kind of crazy. Seems like the ground would be fine, but yeah, the firewood looks pretty old, so might not have been here in a while. Carry bear spray on my trips, and on bushwhacks, it has a tendency to come out of the holster, just pop out and fall on the ground. So this trip, I put a bungee loop through it and around my belt, and so if it falls out, it'll just dangle. I'll feel it dangling, and I won't have to go hunting for it ever again. Just finished the last significant portage of the trip, just a little 30-meter one left. Feels amazing, so I'm celebrating with peanut butter and honey wrap. When I started out on the creek on day 5 or so, I said I'd spare you for most of the monotonous bushwhack portages, and I just captured a glimpse into that, but there was a lot. In fact, I spent a lot more time bushwhacking and traveling over land than I did paddling, so that's not an ideal ratio, but it's a relief to be done. First non-brook trout fish of the trip. It's pike, small pike. There's some threatening clouds coming in, so I think I'm going to try and find camp quick, get a turp up. There it is, final rapid of the trip. Just took out up there on the rock. Canoe is behind the tree there, and I'll give you a look at camp. It's a very well established camp, but it seems to have little sign of recent use. Just gathered some firewood, but the fire pit hasn't had a fire in a while. Got comfy over there. Actually just had a cat nap, badly needed it. And it's time for some supper. Can't wait. Nice spot for Camp 9. Well, I was hoping to pack some protein into my body tonight with a big fish dinner, but no takers here. I was kind of in the mood for mac and cheese anyway, so it worked out. Just enjoying the accommodations here. Nice little campsite to close out the trip. Got a couple sprinkles of rain. I haven't had rain on my skin all trip, which is incredible. The weather's been amazing. I got rain overnight you know, night 2 maybe, but that was it. So that's been insanely good. Glad I stopped here to rest this afternoon instead of just rushing out of here, going home. Gotta soak this up. It's been a great trip, and if I can stay up tonight, hopefully some stargazing to close it out. Dinner. Nice walleye. Quite nice. This walleye of the trip. Get it back right away. It's always the hardest time to get him when you're trying to have a shoreline. Aaron just sent me an update on the SATCOM saying that the KP is supposed to be over 8 again tonight, so it's clear. Could be a good show. I'm probably not going to get much sleep. I'm going to try and get a little now while it's light out a little, hoping for a good show. Gray morning with sprinkles to start day 10, but what a night. Beautiful northern lights. Really glad I didn't rush out yesterday and spent the extra night. A little spooky watching them in pitch black with the rapid raging, and I heard something in the background now and then. It was most likely a mouse, a squirrel, a hare, something like that. But anyway, when you can't hear, it's pretty spooky. Got breakfast on, and I'm gonna pack up and start heading out. On my way for day 10. Some showers are passing through again, but the sun's already out, so it's not going to last, I'm sure. What unbelievable weather for this trip, along with no bugs virtually, just a few mosquitoes in the evening and morning. A dream ice out trip, really. Coming into this trip, I figured the travel was going to be pretty rough, and it was. There was tons of bushwhacking and scouting and clearing, and then the carries. So physically it was fairly demanding. And the first and second legs, it all felt so worth it. Like, I was constantly inspired, and in between every carry there was just a charming, cozy place that made me want to capture it. And then I thought it was all building up to this river section, the third leg. But it turned out to be very anticlimactic that way, because the scenery in between the grinds on the river was really not special. Like, it probably seems like I just go from grind to grind to grind. There was little to document in between, so the trout fishing was great on leg 1 and 2 as well, and actually slowed down. I was kind of holding back on the first 2 sections, thinking that it would be bigger and better on the river. Not so. I also thought there'd be a bit more runnable whitewater on the river, but really there was just the one run. Along the way I was finding relics like old cans and fire pits, the odd campsite, or very old cuts, but really nothing recent until the end here. So I think it's very fair to say that this is a lost canoe route, and maybe it's okay for this one to be forgotten. Just because the river was sort of an anticlimax. It was nothing inspiring at the end here, so maybe that's okay. Leave it for the brook trout. I had a wonderful time, but there's so many routes out there. I think it's okay if some are a bit lost and Mother Nature gets to keep them for herself. What I will remember from this trip is the wild northern scenery. Truly some beautiful country around here, keeping these trout streams hidden, and the wildlife too. They were hiding the whole time, except for the beavers, and I think there's only one logical conclusion to draw on that, which is that the beavers have acquired a taste for flesh, and they have consumed all the moose and bear and wolves in this area. Prior to the fur trade, I think I heard that there were 400 million beavers in Canada and the US, and it seems that they have reclaimed their empire. On the other hand, bird life was pretty good, and it's the season for them to be coming through this area, so. And I got to send it off with northern lights and some stargazing earlier in the trip, so yeah, it was an awesome time.